With me tonight are Tommy Wu, lead economist of Oxford Economics, and Richard Harris, CEO of Port Shelter. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So, quick first question. Is Joe Biden, as president, good for U.S.-China relations or bad? You first, Richard.
Well, I think a lot of people are probably relieved he's not there. I mean, there are so many loose ends I think Biden has to tie up, as we've seen already, that a lot of people will be saying, well, let's move on.
Exactly. Tommy?
I think in general it should be a good thing because a Biden presidency should remove a lot of political and economic uncertainty.
Right, exactly. Now, as we saw, there are 35 companies that are set to be delisted and 60 blacklisted companies. Do you expect this to go through in the U.S., or do you expect there to be any changes to that?
I don't think there will be changes for now. So they will stay for now, at least during the first year of Biden's presidency, because I don't think it's a good timing yet for Biden to do anything that will make him look soft in the U.S.-China relations.
Right. And do you think it'll be used as leverage, or it'll be a bargaining chip later?
I think so. I think the kind of image I'm looking at is really it's like a high tide. You know, we've reached a high tide now of where the U.S. is using these things. I think they do want to use it as a bargaining chip. It's already there. You don't have to change around or move it very much. And I think that little by little we will see some relaxation of these measures, but I don't see it happening immediately.
Okay. Companies like Xiaomi are on that list. Do you think it'll get delisted in November?
Probably not, unless something drastic happens between U.S.-China relations. If the tensions somehow escalate, but I don't think at the moment this will happen. And I think the two will, for a Joe Biden presidency, I think he will just stays put for now.
Okay,
yeah.
And some of the big companies like China Telecom?
Well, I think the thing is with all of these companies is that there's now quite a draw back to Hong Kong. You know, there is an alternative. In the old days, there was some kind of face value almost to listing in New York, and there are a lot of investors there who would invest the money. But it's just as easy for those investors to invest through Hong Kong as well, we're a US dollar economy after all, and I think that that's going to be quite a big draw. So it may well be that although there's a little bit of resistance in the US, companies are going to find it more attractive to look maybe back here.
Right. So will Hong Kong be the place of choice for Chinese companies to IPO over the US, you think, in the coming years?
I think so. So there has been a trend of a lot of Chinese companies doing IPOs or second listings in Hong Kong already, but I think that will continue, or maybe even there will be a stronger trend, given that the U.S.-China tensions is there. Plus, the U.S. has already passed a law to ask foreign companies to comply to U.S. audit rules. So that would make probably some of the Chinese companies that want to get listed in the U.S. they may be hesitated, and probably Hong Kong could be a better choice.
And Hong Kong is a strong choice too, because if you look at things like regulation is strong here. Again, auditing is not weak here. These kind of checks and balances are in Hong Kong just as much as they are in New York.
Right. Do you expect to see dual listings between Hong Kong and China, any of the China bourses?
Yeah, I think so, yes. There will be more dual listings. And I think one thing I also want to mention is the fact that even if a lot of companies just list in Shanghai, say the starboard for a lot of the tech companies, that will still benefit Hong Kong through the Stock Connect scheme, for instance, and also the renminbi market here, which helps the whole renminbi business as well as the progress of renminbi internationalization for China.
Right. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more about how this actually strengthens renminbi internationalization?
Yeah. The fact that global investors have to invest in, say, the Shanghai starboard through Stock Connect in Hong Kong means that these investors will need to first convert foreign currencies into renminbi, and then purchase the stocks through the Stock Connect. So by itself, that would already increase dramatically the amount of demand for renminbi. and that should help facilitate the whole renminbi internationalization.
Okay, so for listings, it's really going to benefit Hong Kong. Now, what about the Biden administration? What are some of the things you think they'll be concerned about? Are they even going to be concerned about this from what you've seen in Biden's first 5 days?
Well, I think what we've seen is that he is absolutely fixated upon domestic issues. You know, he's issued 30 executive orders in the last 3 days. Even Trump only had 9 in his last 2 weeks, and I think Obama had 8 in his first 2 weeks. So you're looking at a lot of executive orders, and it's almost as if the Democrats have had this pent-up concern in them saying, when we get into power, we're going to do this. And they are. You've had these things. But they're largely about COVID and dealing with COVID, climate change, and immigration. There's been nothing about foreign issues whatsoever, which I think is a little concern. I think they'll get around to those, but I think it's a bit of a concern because Biden is probably one of the few people in the whole administration who has any indications, any leanings towards foreign policy, and he's going to be pretty busy. We've got the Secretary of State Blinken too, who is also quite internationally minded. Apart from that, there are not many people.
Right. Do you expect to see more diplomacy under this administration between Hong Kong and China?
There will be more diplomacy between U.S. China and also on issues also in issues on Hong Kong. And so I would say that the tensions between U.S. China on, say, the economics and investment front, at least it will stay there for now, but I don't think it will escalate further. But I would think that for a U.S. Biden administration, their concern will be more on other non-economic issues, including some of the, whether they're human rights or other types of issues. And because of that, maybe Hong Kong could be in a tricky situation because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And where does Hong Kong stand as a global financial hub now? Do you think it still keeps its place as a global financial hub?
No, I think it'll be different. I think we have been a global financial hub up to now, almost China's face onto the world, but very much looking globally with a lot of inflows, a lot of interaction with the rest of the world. I think we're going to end up as an international hub, very important international hub, but not quite the global hub that we'd like to be, such as London is in its time zone and New York is in its time zone. The world needs a global hub in this time zone. And I think that as we become more and more connected with China and the Chinese economy, we're going to become more international, but not more global.
So, Tommy, what is Hong Kong's role with the world and with China, in your opinion?
I think Hong Kong will continue to be the gateway in and out of China. And as Richard just mentioned, I think Hong Kong will just continue to strengthen that role. So Hong Kong will become more and more apparent as a China's international financial center rather than as a truly, purely global hub.
Okay. And what areas will the relationship get better in, do you think, between the U.S., Hong Kong, and China? And which areas will be strained? We've got a minute left.
Well, I think, obviously, as Toya was saying, I think the human rights issue is very close to Biden's heart. He's not going to let that go. But I'm sure that there's going to be a greater easing of the relationship between the two, and probably a lot less wolf diplomacy from China, which hasn't worked. But there'll be a lot more gracious talk between the two.
Okay. Really quick, what's your take on this?
Well, I think the development should be positive. There should be more negotiations. So back to more of the good old times where the two sides will sit down and actually talk through things. I'm sure there will be disagreements here and there, but then I think it's important to keep engaging.
Okay, thank you both. Thank you, Richard.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Next up is our property segment, and Alice Kahn goes to Tai Tam. Stay with us.